two. I'll go ahead and get started since it's already 8 minutes after six. Others can join as they like. I will let them in as well. And today we're going to cover an introduction to data literacy. So we'll discuss some of the topics, some things to look out for, how it is used, the benefits, the risks, and then we'll also spend some time using our resources to find how to, especially when you see data online, you see posts on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. How do you verify those sources? So we'll look at, we have a couple of databases we're going to use to do that. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll know how to evaluate and critique the purpose of data, and you'll know how to find general statistics using library resources as well as online resources. And we're going to be pretty interactive today, so feel free to unmute or type in the chat as you like. Ask questions, answer questions. Um, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Let me stop this video. And hopefully everyone sees that.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. I have to make sure because I'm going from screen to screen. So again, I'm Loloria Kanata. This is an introduction to data literacy. Again, we're going to, by the end of this session, you'll be able to evaluate and critique the purpose of data and know how to find journal and statistical data. But first, let me close that. What is data literacy? What do we mean by data literacy? Data literacy is the ability to read data, write and work with data, and communicate data in proper context. So you're going to read it here, write, you work with, in some cases, we do have databases where you can download the data set and manipulate that. And then once you do that, you should know how to communicate your findings, whether it's in your research paper, online post, podcast, what have you. Um, so going back to this first one, reading data effectively means that you can know how to make sense of quantitative and qualitative information. Quantitative data, of course, is the numerical data, such as an average number. Qualitative data is non numerical, and we see this all the time with surveys, focus groups, interviews. You may have even participated in some of that. And working with data, and if depends on where you are, in some majors you'll take a research methods class where you learn how to collect and organize data for analysis. And finding the right data is a useful tool for your paper. And we're going to look at this database where you can pull in tables to post in your paper. We have another database where you can get opinion polls. So, of course, then you want to communicate that information in a useful way. Um, and really, the point of all of this is to be able to use data to make decisions, whether in your personal or professional lives, and also to persuade others to do what you want them to do. And I'm going to ask you, why should you care about data literacy? Why do you think you should care about data literacy?
I guess I could start. My name is Nokoria Jones, and I'm a student at GSU, and I believe that people should care about data literacy because it affects the way people perceive the information, and it affects the way that they digest and interpret the information you give them.
Yeah, very nice, very well said. And that's exactly right because One reason is, oh, hang on, I saw a comment in the chat. Let me go find it. And I saw there was a chat. I'm having trouble getting to. Hang on. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to see the chat when I'm sharing my screen, but I did.
I could read it for you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, it says so we can find information easier and protect our own information.
Okay, good. Because as you know, you're online every day. It's very easy for people to lie with statistics. You can do a Google search. Yes, you're going to get 1,000 results, but there's no way of knowing right off the bat if those are good and factual results. And anyone can post and manipulate data. And I'm going to show you some examples of that in a minute. You know, even some news sources on social media, they're manipulating data from climate change to presidential elections. There are so many competing voices and viewpoints. So you need a way to verify. Again, as you just said, you want to know what's right and factual, and you want to be able to use that information to make decisions, and you don't want to misdirect or misinform someone else with bad information. So it helps you avoid being lied to with statistics. Okay, and this is sort of cover what we just said, but some of the benefits of data literacy. Can you think of one? We sort of just named it, but you can say it again.
Um, was it accuracy of the information or
Yes.
credibility?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. Credibility. Um, if you have good data, um, you should feel free to share it because other people they may use it to make decisions. You may use it to make decisions. For instance, if there's data out there about the interest rate, you're looking to get a car loan or a home loan. You need the accurate interest rate that's out there. So if someone's giving you wrong information, you may not even pursue that loan for something in your personal life. So again, the benefits: you're making sense of complex or competing information. You're able to get clear conclusions from a set of data. You can estimate realistic solutions for everyday problems, apply information to your own life decisions. And that's what I meant by the like car loan, a home loan. You need accurate information on interest rates, for example, and then be able to filter out those unreliable sources with ease. So if you see something, you're like, oh, I know that's not accurate because blah, blah, blah. So you know that. And so there are risks of being data illiterate. If you don't know how to read data, manipulate data, communicate data, interpret data, there are some risks that you may be subject to. Any ideas? Why would
You'll
some
be sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It just makes you more vulnerable to people who will try to get over on you. So like for hackers for instance and spam mail and things, like if you input your information, they tell you one thing, you put your information in and you're just more vulnerable to the hackers out there. That's what I would think.
Oh, that's a very good one. Yes, because you get an email about Prince in Nigeria needs money. They have access to your account, and I've fell victim to some. This was several years ago. Gave my PIN number for my cell phone account, and it took complete someone completely. I thought it was AT&T, but completely took over my phone, and it's problematic when I had to go. This was on, of course, it had to be on a Friday. Go in the entire weekend without having my cell phone because I um, made a mistake. I was illiterate at the time. Yeah. So, like you said, there are those with ulterior motives that they may try to get you to do something based on some bad information. Um, you're not going to be able to make good decisions, and you could spread unethical, harmful findings to others. And of course, you don't want to rely on inaccurate or manipulated information to make your decisions. Okay, so let's do this example. Um, a lot of things we see online and say, oh, the average number of people did this, the average number of people did that. So, let's say this is your family. Just by looking at these numbers, these are your family members and ages. Would your guess be for the average age of your group? Would it be in the 20s, 30s, or 40s?
I would probably say like either 30s or 40s, like mid 30s.
Wow, you're good. So, so, of course, you calculate the average by adding all of the ages and divide it by the total numbers of people. So there are 10 people. That total is 342. So the average age is 34. You were right on the money. Mid 30s is correct. Spot on. That's right. So, you know, what are the outliers you see here? So sometimes there are outliers in the information out there that may um, drastically change, like in this case, what the average is. What are the outliers there?
The smallest ones are like 1 and 2 years old, and then the bigger numbers were like 88 and 70.
Correct.
That could really alternate the average that you end up getting.
Right. And if someone was really trying to, you know, had ulterior motives, trying to really dissuade you or persuade you about something, they can say, oh, the average age is 44 for whatever reason. If they're trying to say, oh, nothing but people over 40 do blah, blah, blah. So it's good to be able to just look at some things and estimate what the averages are. Um, it's kind of hard. Of course, now we have our calculators all the time on our phone, but if you don't, and it's good to just be able to do that. Okay, and I'm gonna go over some common missteps that people try to do to mislead you with data. And of course, when you see something visually, it seems more convincing. It's so you're even more susceptible to something that's visually. We are a visual, we're a visual people, visual world. And when you see something visually, um, it has a different, more of an impact on how you interpret things. So that's one reason why they do it. But let's look at some examples. Okay, this one is on interest rates. And of course, the x axis is the vertical, going across, y-axis is going down. Now, if you notice here, there's some big differences in the y-axis. Um, of course, this one is incorrect, but if you were using this one, notice how the difference between 2014 here and 2015 seems more significant than over here. Can you see what happened with these axes, with the y-axis?
It looks like the numbers started earlier. Like they graphed the numbers on the second one, well, the on the after interest rates. They graphed it to look like it's earlier, so the rates are increasing more. It's just like the numbers that they use started earlier, so the increase is going to look more drastic than in the before graph.
Okay, so the after is actually correct because it should always start with zero. And you see on this
Mhm.
one, they all look like they're right there at the same. That's not a really drastic increase between from year to year. They're all right there. Over here, they started at 315, 3.15. So, you see a little space in between from 2014 to 2015. Look like there's like a point 0.5 difference when in actuality there really isn't. Um, this is probably 3.2. This might be 3.23 or something like that. So that's one way they try to fool you with that truncated y-axis. They're starting, you know, 315. They're just going up by 5, but they're already at this point instead of starting at 0. And graphically, visually, that looks more significant than what it really is. Okay, so this one, they have two different values, different statistics. So the purple is cancer screening and prevention services, the number of tests. So there are two things going on here. Notice here the cancer, there are 2 million plus cancer screenings that went down to 935,000. And then on the number of abortions given, it starts in the 100,000. So right off the bat, these are not even given in the same value. You can't have two things, one in millions and one in 100,000s. That should be accounted for. Um, and then there isn't a y-axis here. So these need to be in the same numeric value. And you see how this, it looks dramatic. Oh, this went way down. Oh, this looks like the number of abortions went way up, but there isn't a starting point for either of these. It's like they just randomly picked a point and said, "Oh, I'm just unsure of that," and just to make it dramatic. When in actuality, there was an increase in abortions, but not that many, as you can see right there. And so, and of course, on this one, you have the y-axis, and they're all given in the same denomination in the hundred thousands. Um, of course, cancer screening, there was a significant decrease, but of course for this one, so you can say, oh, they're trying to make a point that more people are getting abortions, um, which isn't the case. Not as dramatic as it was before. And the last one, what you see here is, it's not something you really see that often, the comparison of two pie charts. Whoops. The comparisons of two pie charts. It's not visually appealing. You can't really compare and contrast as easily. So the US, whatever category this is, 15, and over here is 23. It's just not visually appealing. And so this is just to confuse you. Pie charts, you usually do it with the graphs instead. And so now you can easily compare one country for 1 year versus the next year. So the same data in columns tells the story better and is just visually more appealing. You can see the representation here. Any questions? So now before we get to looking up data, I have a couple examples I want us to try to find. But I'll just conclude with these examples and say that you really have to pay close attention to spot the error. Sometimes it's like clickbait. They want a reaction, and then you're riled up, and then before you know it, you've been misled with information. So on those three examples, we were able to look at the information presented and spot some errors, but we have yet to verify the information. So now let's look at verifying information. And so for these examples, and I have a list, and at, I'll send the link for all of this information, PowerPoint, the research guide, and this recording for. I'll send it. I already have your email, so I'll send this to you once I finish editing some things. But you will have the information for the databases that we're going to use. Okay, so this was an actual headline I think in a newspaper, or it was on some news site. Food stamp fraud at an all-time high. Is it time to end the program? So the key phrase in this article, according to the USDA, $70 million of taxpayer money was wasted in 2016 due to food stamp fraud. So if you saw this, you might think, well, geez, yeah, why are they wasting all this money? That could go, hey, toward payment of my student loans. Let's close this program down. Um, you know, that could be your initial reaction. So, if we want to verify this information, just looking at this first, where would you go?
It looks like I would probably first go to the a news outlet to see if it's true or not.
Okay,
Maybe like um yeah, just like a major news outlet.
okay. Well, they'll say this actually was on a major news outlet.
Mm.
This is just a screenshot of their website. How would you verify, or what do you need to verify to determine if this program needs to end? And of course, with food stamp, we mean that's SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
We need to, I guess we would have to look closer into what do they mean by it's being wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So we would probably go to the source that they got it from, like USDA, and see what they meant by that.
Perfect. So let's do that. And I'm going to go to I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can get to my webs. Let's see, I need to get online. Okay, let me share again. And again, I'm going to send you this link to this video, I mean to this research guide. So statistical sources, we have that. But as you said, let's go to the USDA website. So, of course, any governmental website you can is .gov. So I'm just going to make sure. So we're going to go to that website. Just type in SNAP. Okay. Of course, I looked at it so I know exactly where to go, but you would browse through that list. Okay. So we have programs, data, research. And let's look at program data because SNAP is a program. We want to find the data for that. SNAP tables. Okay, so this is perfect. And let's look at the, okay, participation. Okay, this is the cost of the program. So while that's loading, one thing you want to look at, okay, they say $70 million was wasted. Now, to the average person, especially if you're in college, you work at Georgia State, that is a lot of money. But maybe that isn't a lot of money for a governmental program. So the total costs, these are numbers are in millions of dollars. They're truncated here. So for each year, whatever's given here, you're going to multiply by $1 million. So that was 2020. I mean 2016. 2016. The total cost of the program, and you multiply that times 1 million, you end up with $700 billion. So in the bigger scheme of things, is 70 million being wasted enough to eliminate the program? What do you think?
No.
Right? So, but if you just look at that number, you're like, geez, 70 million. Again,
Right.
pay off my student loans with that. But I'm sorry, I just got my payment start next month, so it's on my mind. But yeah, so it looks like the whole program is being wasted. But if you were to say, hey, you voted for someone who wanted to end the program, you got what, $630 billion unaccounted for that was actually helping people. So that's a big difference. And I'm going to go back to, this is the research guide I created for that. And before I do that, if there's anything that if you're online, anything that looks like it should be a program under the federal government, maybe you don't know the correct agency, just go to usa.gov. Um, you can just get back to the home page. Whatever you type in, let's just that it can lead you to the right agency. So yeah, see all that came up again. So just remember usa.gov when you're not sure about the agency. Okay. So we also have a database called Statistical Abstracts of the United States. Okay. I have to sign in. Okay. So the Statistical Abstracts of the United States, I like this because it gives you nice tables you can put in your paper. And if we search, most of these are from different governmental agencies, just in all those categories. So this is just another good source. If I search for SNAP, which is the food stamp program again, You can go through the list. Under the subjects, you can always narrow it down. But again, benefits, that's what you want to look for again. And one of the reasons I like this, so let's look at total costs. This one, it doesn't have 2016, but again, these are in millions of dollars, and you could just look at these years for the, here it is, total benefits like for 2020, and you can see that it's still going to be $740 million. But, so we have that table. You can download the table, but you can also, it gives you the source of where they're getting the information. So this would take us right back to USDA. So if there were some other things we wanted to look at there, we could go back to the actual source. But this also gives you basic citation information in these two formats. So if this was something that you wanted to use in your paper, you could copy and paste, and that's already done for you. And that's a little easier, I think, than having to do it yourself from a website.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Your screen isn't showing anymore. I just see a grid.
Oh boy. Okay. Let me stop, and I'm going to share again. Make sure I pick the right one. Sorry about that. Of course, what about now?
Not yet. I saw something that said AV and then it went away.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just me. I'm gonna log out and log back in.
No, no, no. I think, hang on. Uh, Maybe I have too many things open here. I'm going to close that one out. Yeah, it's still doing that, isn't it? It's something on my end. Let's see what I need to do. Let me stop and how about,
Okay, I can see it now.
okay,
This is good.
this is statistical abstract, so I'll just go back a bit to the home page here. Um, Statistical abstracts of the US, and it's similar to USA.gov, where you can search for different agencies and then search the website to find the data or tables that you need. This simplifies it a bit because you can come here. You can either go to these, it covers all these categories. So we're just going to search for SNAP, which is the food stamp program. And let's say if we wanted to limit it here to those six tables and make it a little easier to go through. And as you're browsing, you say, hey, this has benefits, so that might have the cost of the programs there. So that's the benefits it does. It also has the cost per person by state for those 3 years, 2010, 2020, 2022. And the other thing, as I was mentioning, is it gives you the source. And sometimes, if you go to the source, you can find additional information. Maybe there's different analysis a report for that area. But I like this because you can copy and paste the citation if you choose to use it in your paper. And this also has a download link here you can print. So this is statistical abstracts of the United States. And we'll probably come back here in a minute. Um, any questions? I do have another example I want to show you.
No questions.
So what do you see now? Do you see, does
I
this,
see your PowerPoint.
okay. Okay, this was something I saw on Twitter the other day. So take a look at this. And I just thought this was a good example of, I don't follow this person. It just showed up on my timeline. But I think it's a good example where someone was trying to make a point with data. They got some of it right, but they got a lot of it wrong. And so this person is saying if 3,573 women in the United States were murdered in 2020, and 1,440 of those victims were black women, he's saying that's 40% of that. And black people only make up 13% of the population, and black women make up half of that. What does that say about the rate at which black women are unalive? So, what do you think's going on here? What is he trying to say? Or what are they trying to say?
Um, well, what I got from it is that because they're more black women, it just shows that they're just like being murdered. It seems like they're being, I don't know, I think that they're being murdered like quicker or not quicker, but like
But
majority of black women are likely to be murdered, and we don't make up more than the percent that they're being murdered at the rate they're being murdered at.
right. So the person is using two different things to try to make this one point, which you really can't do. So if this number is correct, if the 3573 is correct number of people who were unalived and 1440 of those were black women, then just looking at it, we can do the math if we want. That looks like that could be about 40%. That could be right. But this is where it goes off the rails. So 13% of the population, yeah, blacks do make up 13% of the population. But there's no way that half of the black women population is being unalive, because that would be way more than 1440, right?
Right.
Yeah, because there are millions of black people in this country, but um, if you just didn't pay this much attention, it's like, oh wow, half of black women are being unalived every year. Um, that's not entirely true. So we're going to go back to, we're going to go back to statistical abstracts. Okay, hopefully you see that. And let's try to find the numbers to verify this. So I'm just going to search population and race. So, population and race, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to, let's see, how can I narrow this down? Let's say over here, I'm going to do black Americans. that one's not working. So let's try this. Homicide and race and sex. Sometimes you just have to do it. Some keywords don't work out, you try again. All right, so this is what I was looking for. Homicide victims by race and sex, 1990 to 2020. And let me make this a little bigger so you can hopefully see it on the screen. And the number he used was 2020. Now, occasionally, depending on the agency, or there could be two different agencies who have similar information, and sometimes they collect it at different times of year. They might do it every 3 months, so that person could have been looking at the data point from April, and maybe like this could be the data point from June. So that's why this number 1845 could be different from this is black female victims. Maybe his 1440 is correct, but this could be it's close enough. That's not a really big difference. So that's sort of accurate as far as the number. And if we go back to this other table, and of course, sometimes you have to actually read the notes at the top and at the bottom. It tells you some of that information about when the information was collected. So let me make this bigger again. So 2020, total number of female victims. Actually, his number is from 2019. You see that 3573 that he mentioned?
Yes.
That's there. Okay. So he had that number right. And let's go back here. So if we see that that's from 2019, we can go back here for number of black female victims, and that's 1379 here. So it's even closer than we thought. So that part of the equation is right. Um, so that checks out. So the other thing, of course, you can go through different. There's another table here that might be helpful. There's that number again, 3573. But these numbers are different. Oh, this is all black, so we don't know the total number of women. So this is just by race. This is by sex over here. But all of this, again, just want to point out you have the citation information here. If I go back, let's say I just want so the part of the post that he got incorrect from the point was the number of black people actually in the US. So we do population and race. We do go back to that one now. Then we could see the total number of we'll get closer to the total number of black people. So both sexes, we have that number here, but if you go down, it's the female population by one race, and for females, black, you see that's over, I think the number's given, we need to multiply it by 100,000. So of course, let's say we multiply, so they're already, what, let's just say this is 121 million black women. So of course, we've debunked that example. Some of that was right, yeah. Still 40%, but not 40% of the black female population is being unalive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And we have a couple of more minutes, and I'm just want to show you one other thing that often comes up. Hang on, get out of here. I'm trying to get back to the. Okay, so you see that. Okay, another place where you can find like demographic information, other places for data across the US is Social Explorer. And remember when we talked about how people visually try to distract you or misuse graphic visual data visualization to mislead you? Well, this database kind of helps you with that. A lot of the information is displayed graphically, so you have that option. But I'm going to just go here to tables, and you can see some of the tables that are listed here. American Community Surveys, a lot of different information about all, again, about the U.S. population, work. Uh, Here's another one: voting, census, Black Lives Matter, housing data. So there's a lot going on here. And another good one that comes up a lot is crime data. So let's just take a quick look at that. So you see that it's 2014. Let's just go to a report. Just want you to see how it graphically. I'm just going to do one state. How you can just really find information for one state or the entire country. I'm just doing one state. I'm going to add the tables I want to see. And so this gives me the tables here that I can download into Excel. I can download the data. Um, if I go back to Social Explorer page, there's demographic profiles that you can look at. Um, we're not going to have time for that, but back to the tables. Yeah. So there's a lot of information you can gather, with specifics on what you want. And if we had more time, we could go into how you look at that. Well, explore maps. Okay, we'll go to that quickly. If you did explore maps, and I'm going to change the data here. Let's just do race. So all my data, oh, it didn't change it. Race and total population. So let me get out of here. I can change this bubbles. This doesn't present well. Let's just do shaded area. So now I have this table. You can see the key here, and it's giving me the population for each state. So this could be something that you could download and add in your paper. So this is just graphically. Of course, this is a basic one. This is one thing you could do. If there were a lot of changes, we would see that by color. A lot of differences, you can see that by color. And as we said, that's more impactful when you see the difference graphically or visually. And okay, in the last 2 minutes, I want to show you Roper. This is an opinion poll database, and as you know, the elections coming up, they're going to be talking about what Americans think of different subjects, different top different topics. This is one place where you can look those up. You can find out, and let's just do one: election fraud. It's not letting me type a date here, but let me just search. And let me, let's say 2015 to the present, and I'm gonna search. So what this does is comes up with surveys that have used that as one of the questions. For instance, which of the topics are most important facing the country? And so over here, you see the percentages: election security or election fraud is only 17%. So of course, if someone was exaggerating, 50% of the country they're really concerned about election fraud. Well, you can come here and like, no. This survey was done August 15th through the 22nd by the Washington Post. That's not true. So that's that's what that does. Okay, I'm just gonna come back. Oh, yes, I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna send this to you. I see your where you can find this PowerPoint. Yes, I'm gonna send all of this to you. Um, along with this is going to be on the research guide that I was using, so you'll be able to see that. Any last or final questions? Is there something you wanted me to cover that I didn't? Because I can add that. That'll be helpful if that's something I need to add to the research guide.
I enjoy the presentation and I appreciate you providing me with those resources. I was unfamiliar with all of those, so now even for like general arguments when I'm having with my family members, pull up those statistics. I'm gonna be honest, so I really appreciate your time and for you like presenting this. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too for joining me on a Thursday night when there's a Georgia State football game. So thank you for spending your time with me.
Yep, I'm in Cali right now, so it's only 4 p.m.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
La La Land. Well,
It's
enjoy.
beautiful.
I bet. I haven't been there in years, but always loved it. All right. Well, thank you both. Once you get, I'll send when you give my email. I'll send it tomorrow because I'm probably gonna go crash right now. But I will send the link tomorrow along with all the materials, and you'll have my email address once I send that out. So anytime you have questions about anything library related, just feel free to get in contact with me.
Okay.
All right. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.